Hare Krishna. Welcome you all for our Gurukula session. Today's Tuesday. We have there is a story session, and as we are discussing about Mahabharata episodes. So the story the episodes are filled with a great thrills, and Lord Krishna especially is the center subject matter of the whole discussion. So if you remove Krishna from the center, then whole Mahabharata will look like some kind of a fiction, imagination, or without any much relevance. But we have to study in connection with Krishna. So what Krishna spoke in Bhagavad Gita, these are the principles, and how we can understand from the dealings of these great characters. That's how we will be able to understand in our life also. But what happened mainly problem is people forget Krishna, then they see or they read as a fiction, as a novel, and then they don't much find a relevance about that. So right, but if you learn in perspective of Lord Krishna's teachings and how Lord Krishna wants to teach all of us, then it will be a great meaning. So let's see today's discussion. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayham Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Aham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhantam Shah Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratviche Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaura Giradhe Vrindavaneshwari Ushabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So just let me put the screen here. Are you all able to see the Vedabhas screen? Chapter 3. Pandavas come to Hastinapur. Is it visible?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So as we were reading last week, the problem the Gandhari was feeling. What was the problem Gandhari was getting? The kind of what we say, not problem word exactly, but she was having a issue.
Prabhuji, that she heard that the Kunti first child, and she is getting at second, so she beat at her.
Perfect. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Manvik bro. Right, Gandhari had an issue not because she is not getting a birth, Gandhari had an issue because her co-wife Kunti gave birth first, then she. So most of the time what happened, this is an interesting phenomenon. When we have a problem with us, I mean, when we get some kind of a problem or kind of issue, we don't much mind. But when we go on comparing with others, then our problem becomes more aggravated. So comparing with others is one of the cancer of our mind. You know, the cancer cells. How many of you heard about the cancer cells? Are they good or are they bad for the body? Yes. How many of you heard about cancer cells? Are they good for the body or bad for the body? Yeah, please unmute and say, yeah, bad. Correct. So cancer cells starts eating the good cells. And that's what the person, if it is not detected in time, then that becomes a serious stage. Level 1, level 2, stage 4, right? It becomes more difficult to control later. So same way, these are the cancer cells of comparing with others. Who is telling, oh, why, how come he is telling, how can I not? And that's what we say it as a envy or jealousy. And then if it is not worked in time, then all our good qualities are eaten up by these unwanted, undesirable cancer cells. And that's what now we'll read how it's going to come now. And then later we saw that Gandhari hit her embryo, and then the hard mass of flesh came out. And then Vyasdev said, let's see, because Vyasdev had given a benediction, right? You shall have 100 sons as powerful as your husband. Okay? So, but then this has not come out. Then Vyasdev said, words will not go fail. So Vyasdev got the 100 pots. Last time we were reading. Okay, so let's give a reading once again for this paragraph. Yeah, 101 pots. Yeah, correct. Thank you. Vyasdev replied that his words would never prove false. He asked the servants to bring 101 pots filled with ghee. He then sprinkled the cool water on the lump of flesh, and it gradually divided into 101 parts, each the size of a thumb. Okay, so whole mass was there, and 101 pots were brought. Then this whole mass was divided into 101, and it was dipped into that, in the pot, the size of thumb. These were placed in the pots, which were then sealed and placed in a concealed spot. Concealed spot means it cannot be seen, or it's not a public place. It has been hidden in a secret place. As they instructed that the pot should be opened only after 2 more years had passed. And then he departed for his lonely mountain ashram. So now just to calculate, okay, the Pandavas had been born, and then Gandhari is not able to give a birth. And then after this issue happened, which again the 2 years have passed. So naturally the Pandavas are like kind of a senior, already superior in age than these 100 sons, would be 100 sons coming out. Exactly after 2 years had elapsed, the pots were opened one by one. From the first came a child who was named Duryodhan. At the moment he was brought out of the pot, the sound of braying asses and screaming vultures was heard. Jackals howled and the wind blew fiercely. So what do you feel? Is it a good sign or a bad sign? Howling of a...
It is a bad omen.
Yeah, because of course we'll be knowing a story, that's why we're saying. But in general, asses, jackals, vultures, these are the animals in the mode of ignorance. These are not in a goodness or a kind of a passion. Ignorance, worst. And that's what when they create some kind of a sound, it's not at all good. It's very, very inauspicious. So what happened? When this child is born, first child who came out, these are the symptoms were being observed. Without any apparent cause, fire sprang up all around the city and raged in all directions. So just see what kind of a symptoms took place after the birth of this son. Now quickly, let me throw one question to all of you. Okay, can some of you recall some of the similar incidents? The birth of the personality brought out some kind of a, yeah, you can say auspicious symptoms, examples, or these are the inauspicious, the bad omens.
Krishna?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Lord Krishna, obviously correct. Yeah. When Lord Krishna appeared, although it was a Amavasya, but then it was like a moon was there. Full blown moon. I mean, it was a half day, half moon only, but full blown moon. Yeah, obviously. Any other examples? Yes.
Prabhuji, Kamsa.
Kamsa's birth. I don't know. At least I did not read. Okay.
Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu.
Yes. Bhagavatam gives the description about these two personalities. Right? They're the sons of whom? Anyone knows? They're the sons of?
Diti and Kashyapa.
Yeah, Diti and Kashyapa. So when the Diti was being impregnated, the Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were about to be born. Then suddenly something similar things happened. The clouds were black and kind of inauspicious sound, and the symptoms were all around. Right. So any other examples? Yes, the good examples or the bad examples. Birth of the great persons. Yes. Yeah. Prahlad's birth is, yeah, of course, is auspicious only, but there is no description in particular that when Prahlad appears. Surely it will be there, but
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also comes. Yeah. So actually it was an eclipse, lunar eclipse, but it was very inauspicious moment. But why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared at that time? Because everyone was taking bath in Ganga and chanting the name of Krishna. So that's why it is all auspicious. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared at that time. Yeah. So one thing we have to keep in mind, how we are. Very nice. Jashit Prabhu is writing the birth of Pandavas. Just now we read in the previous chapter. When the Pandavas were being born, whose sound were heard? Something happened. Anyone remember? For every child, something came up as soon as they were born. There was a celestial sound. The sound came from the sky. The Devatas, they gave the benedictions. Yeah. So there also we see. So we can just understand how our birth impacts to the world. So if the great souls are appeared in the society, the great things will take place for everyone. But if the demons or the demoniac people are being born, then naturally it is a Kali Yuga, and more Kali will spread, more and more things will cause. So of course Duryodhana, later we will read, Duryodhana had given a warnings and many things, but he never improved. So it was a clear indication that birth is not good. It is a very inauspicious. So our presence creates the impact on surrounding. Right? If you are a good character person, it will spread all good around. But if you are a bad character person, bad values, bad behavior, then everyone around will make bad only. Right? Like just like if you have a basket of mangoes and one mango is rotten, then what will happen to all other mangoes? What will happen eventually to all other mangoes? Hey, obviously, yeah, they will also get rotten, right? They also get rotten. So same way, these demoniac people are born, then naturally they will spread more and more demoniac things all around. But if the great souls are born, like Srila Prabhupada appeared. Now this year remarks 125th birth year of Srila Prabhupada appearance. So how all auspiciousness is brought out, how great things brought out for the whole world, the great hope. Right? Now Duryodhana's case, this is the first child. Let's read next. What happened? The frightened king Dhritarashtra summoned the Brahmins, Bhishma, Vidura, and other ministers and the counselors. He asked them the meaning of the omens. The eldest of the princes is undoubtedly Yudhishthir, and he should inherit the kingdom. I do not dispute that, but will my own son become the king after him? O wise ones, please tell me what is right and lawful. So naturally he's concerned about his son. So he understood, okay, Yudhishthir is going to be the king, but what about my son? Some things, why these omens are there, and can he become the king properly or not? As Dhritarashtra spoke, the terrible sounds began again from all sides. I mean, I mean, just imagine what kind of birth it is. Hearing this, Vidur replied to the king, when these omens are seen at the birth of a child, it is evident that he will be the exterminator of his race. What is meaning by exterminator? Exterminator.
Or like destroyer.
Terminate the
Yeah, killer, destroyer, terminating the whole race dynasty. Exterminator. Exterminator of his entire race. So we say na, ye hamara bachcha hamare kul ka uddhar karega. He will deliver our dynasty. But what is he going to do? Vidura is telling, he is going to degrade the whole dynasty. So it's very much important. We all have a responsibility. So if you know, when the forefathers are departed, right? When let's say our father, grandfather, forefathers, right? When they leave their forefathers, let's say now they are not there. So what happens? They go to Pitraloka, right? And their ancestors, the children's below, how do they behave? How do they act? Right? They get the credits there. They also get the like, let's say if they have done something wrong, they are destined to suffer now. But if we continue to perform very nicely Krishna consciousness, they are saved, they are escaped. Why? Because we are there in their dynasty. So something like that, Duryodhana would have done good, but now because of his behavior, you see what's going to happen now. Already it is being predicted. Our prosperity and future depend upon his being abundant. So what is meaning by abundant? Abundant. You have seen while traveling in the railways, abundant building. Chhod dena, leave, yeah, to give up. So Vidura is telling, our good fortune will be to leave this child, not to keep this child with us. Drop this child. Do not hesitate, O king. This child must be cast away at once. Give up this child. Right? So Vidura, one way the advice may look very harsh. Now let's see what happened. Vidur told Dhritarashtra that he would still have 99 other sons. There would be no sin in abandoning this child, as the scriptures clearly state that an individual can be abandoned for the sake of a family. Indeed, a family can be abandoned for the sake of a village for the sake of a city, and the world itself can be abandoned for the sake of the soul. Right? Now I'll give one simple example. Immediately you'll understand what is being said here. Okay. Now let's say I got a cataract here. Okay, my eyes are getting seriously injured. Some kind of a virus has gone. Some kind of let's say some kind of a cancer cell has entered here. Now what to do? Shall we remove this eye and protect the body so that at least with one eye we can go? Or shall we, no, why you are asking me to pluck my eye? My eye is good, I can try to cure or do something. What to do? Shall we let the virus go in and all and again and eat the rest of the part of the body, or shall we immediately check out so that at least we can survive? What is the option?
Basically to remove the eye.
Yeah. Basically to remove the eye so that at least with one eye we can survive and live our life. There are many case studies have been observed. Like somebody's finger starts becoming a problem. They did not cure it in time. Then that spreaded so much. Eventually, their hand was been dysfunctioning. Hand was not properly. Why? Because they allowed. They did not kept it checked. They did not cure it. They did not cut it out in time. They allowed that the disease to spread, and then finally whole hand got dysfunction. There are many cases I also know examples, but the point is something similar is being said. Are Dhritarashtra, you have 99 other sons. This one son you abandon, whole family will be saved. There's nothing wrong about that. And that's what he says. For the sake of a village, one house can be abandoned. For the sake of city, one village can be abandoned. And for the sake of the soul, the whole world can be abandoned. So that's what Jesus Christ says in a similar line. You may conquer the whole world, but if you lose your own self, then what's the use of that? So getting a point. So it's very much important in our life also how to understand this lesson. Like to give an example, like let's say you are in a class, you're in your school, you have a classroom, and now you have one friend, like let's say who is not so good in character, but then he's always distracting us in many ways, which may be so-called entertaining, which is not a good for our future. Like let's say he's sleeping in the class, he's making a noise, he's not doing assignments, homeworks, he's playing the games while teachers are teaching and all. And then while being with him also, we also start the habits of similar. But then there is a choice to drop this friend and stay alone, or to remain with the friend because he's my friend. So we have to think properly. So if you continue with this kind of thing, so it becomes our habit, and then both of us will be removed from the class. So, but then if you check well in time, avoid this such kind of friendship, then at least we'll keep ourselves proper. Yes. So it's just keep a mute. Yeah. So this lesson is very important to take a note. Okay. Now let's see how Dhritarashtra responds and what happens. Dhritarashtra was unable to accept Vidura's counsel. He could not allow his son to be cast away. He shook his head slowly and said nothing in reply. As the nurse stood by holding the baby, the king waved her toward Gandhari, and the child was handed to her. Bhishma and Vidur looked at one another but said nothing. Dhritarashtra was the monarch, and his word was final. So Vidura straightway told, give up this, but Dhritarashtra not. Over the course of the next month, all the pots were opened, and 100 boys and one girl were brought out. All the boys bore the signs of being great warriors and rulers. The king and queen rejoiced in their good fortune. Dismissing the evil omens, they dwelt contentedly in Hastinapur, attended by Bhishma and Vidur. So dismissing the evil omens, they did not bother to think about those evil omens and all. Yeah, your doubts will take at the end. Okay, we'll take your doubts. We have question answer time. So now let's see what happened with the other part. On Saptashrota mountain, spring had arrived. Pandu, surrounded by his 5 youthful sons, felt young again. He sported with the boys in the hills, scaling rock faces and challenging lions in their caves. They dived and played in mountain pools and climbed all tall trees. Wrestling and laughing together, they rolled about the soft grassy slopes. So now Hastinapur scene you understood, right? Now we are coming into the mountain area, Saptashrota, where Pandu with his 5 sons and the 2 wives they are living. So here the 101 children, 100 sons and 1 daughter was born to the Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. And then the symptoms of ill omens and things were being described. Yeah, now here what happened? One evening, Pandu went into the woods with Madri to fetch roots and fruits for their evening meal. As they strolled, they saw countless varieties of blossoming trees and bushes. The air was heavy with scent, and the sounds of cuckoos and other birds filled the air. The black bees swarmed around about the many-colored flowers that surrounded lakes overgrown with lotuses. The celestial atmosphere awoke romance in Pandu's heart, and he gazed at the beautiful Madri, his mind influenced by Cupid. It was a hot day, and Madri was clad in a long silk robe. In the bright sunshine, Pandu could see the outline of her exquisite form, which resembled that of a goddess. The soft breeze made her dress cling to her body, revealing her slender waist and firm round breasts. Pandu could not surpass his desire. He had kept himself in check for 12 years and had not dared to contemplate embracing his wives. All of you know, right? The curse was there. Here it is written, right? Kindama's curse was always uppermost in his mind, and he had resigned himself to practicing celibacy with the determination of a rishi. Right? All of you remembered, na? The deer bodies, two deers were uniting, and then he shot the arrow, and that's what they were the sages, the sage kingdom and his wife. And that's what he had got a curse. Now it looks like now what going to come. It seemed ages ago when he had been able to enjoy conjugal love with his wives. Now Pandu again felt those tearing moving his heart. His mind was confounded, and he moved closer to Madri, gently placing his hand on her arm. Madri at once understood what was in Pandu's heart. So this is one nature of a woman's, they have a sixth sense. Immediately they can understand what this person is thinking about. So Madri understood. She was seized by conflicting emotions. How was her Lord suddenly approaching her in this way? Out of fear of the curse, he had carefully avoided any physical contact with either her or Kunti for a long time. Although she herself had longed for his embrace, she had scrupulously avoided any situation that might entice her husband. She did not even apply cosmetics or perfumes. But as the powerful Pandu embraced her, she felt her resolve weaken. Delight and fear seized her heart at once. And as her emotions clashed, her mind was petrified. What about the curse? If Pandu did not stop, he would doubtlessly be destroyed. She had to prevent him. Madhuri tried to push her husband away. Pandu smiled, incited further by her protest. His mighty arms, deeply tanned and marked with the scabs from his bowstring, closed around her like serpents. Overpowered by desire, he could not even hear her as she reminded him about the curse. So this is how it happens. So the prohibited things are being worked out. Mind gets carried away. Then one forgets the warnings also given by Ram. She pressed her lips with his and dropped down to a grassy slope with the beautiful queen held tightly in his arm. Lifting her robes, he pushed himself firmly against her soft body. Madhuri struggled only inflamed his passion more. As if impelled by the Lord of Death himself, the monarch entirely lost his reason under the influence of lust. Anyone knows Bhagavad Gita, famous verse? One loses one's intelligence under the influence of lust. Very famous verse. Anyone knows? Okay, you can take it as a homework before I tell. Yeah, no one knows. It comes in the second chapter. Okay, you can think about it. Even the third chapter also Lord Krishna describes enemy. Enemy is a lust. No thought of Kindama's curse entered his mind as he lost himself in enjoyment with his fair-skinned wife. Even as he tried to consummate the act with Madhuri, the Rishi's words took effect. Pandu's chest was seized with a terrible pain, and a shocked look crossed his face. His body stiffened and went slack. So finally, Pandu is dead. As Pandu's body fell from hers, Madhuri left out a wail of sorrow. Her worst fears had been realized. Despite all her protest, she had not been able to prevent her husband's death. The distraught queen repeatedly embraced her dead husband and lamented loudly. So unfortunately, Pandu left his body. Kunti heard Madhuri's cries and ran over to where she lay. As Kunti approached, the tearful Madhuri told her to come alone without children. Kunti quickly sent the boys back to the ashram, then rushed to the Pandu's side. She dropped to the ground. Kunti realized at once what had happened, and she cried out, "My lord!" Tears welled into her eyes as she turned to Madhuri. "O noble one, how have you allowed this to happen? I always so carefully to protect our Lord from this very danger. How did he embrace you, knowing of the Rishi's curse? Why did you tempt him when you were alone together? He was always grave in our company as he thought of Kendama's words. How did he become so careless?" So, yeah, last paragraph will read. Madhuri wept, unable to reply. Kunti tossed about on the ground next to her. The two beautiful ladies embraced their husband's dead body and shed profuse tears. Kunti again addressed Madri, O Princess of Madra, you are surely more fortunate than I, for you saw our Lord's face lit up with joy as he approached you in this lonely place. Gathering her senses, Madri replied, O sister, with tears in my eyes, I tried to resist him, yet he could not control himself. He seemed bent on fulfilling the Rishi's curse. So further discussion and what final things happens, and then how further consequences takes. What happened to the Pandu's sons? Right? The news is not there to the Pandu's sons. Kunti came alone. Pandu's children were kept because they should not see this scene of father left the body. So these two lessons very, very important today we discuss. One is about our good character bring out the good thing around. The bad character brings out the bad things around. And then the Pandus, the loss of control. So if we also lose the control of our intelligence, and especially that happens by our eternal enemy called as lust. Like Ravana was also given so many warnings, but he never came to his senses. He was also mad for Mother Sita. And here also we see in a short episode of Pandu. Of course, these are the great souls. They have been come in a dynasty with the great personalities. But through them, we get to learn for our lives also. So these 2 points are very much important. When we don't, when we lose our control, we don't listen to our elders. We don't follow anybody. Like that happens. So one should use the intelligence. One should not get carried away by with the unwanted desires of the mind. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So it happened to such an extreme that Pandu has to lost his life. So such a severe thing turned up in spite of warning. In spite of knowing that what will happen, things could not hit to the intelligence. Right, so that's our second chapter verse it says. So next time we'll begin with the answer. Let us see how many of you find out. What happened when this unsatiable lust takes over? Second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there is a verse it says about this. Thank you all very much for joining. Let us end with the Vaishnava Pranam. Vancha kalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.